Let me ask you something very honestly. Have you ever seen a diamond on the roadside? No, because people throw stones on the road, not diamonds. The sad truth is many powerful women today are being treated like stones. Not because they lack value, but because they forgot their value. Today, I'm not here to insult anyone. I'm here to wake up the power that already exists inside you. Let me begin with a simple question. Have you ever noticed how some people are treated like priceless treasures, while others, just as capable, just as strong, are taken for granted? It is not because of beauty, money, or even intelligence. It is because of one silent decision made every day inside the heart, the decision of self-worth. Many women don't lose respect because the world is cruel. They lose it because, little by little, they forget how valuable they truly are. It often begins with small habits, saying sorry even when there is no mistake, staying quiet when something feels wrong, smiling to hide pain. At first it looks like kindness, patience, adjustment, but slowly it becomes self-erasure. When you constantly put yourself last, the world learns to do the same. Your silence becomes permission. Your tears become invisible. Many women give endlessly, time, love, support, energy, without ever asking if their own cup is being filled. They believe sacrificing themselves is proof of love, but love that drains you is not love. It is slow emotional exhaustion. Even a river needs banks to stay strong. Without boundaries, even the purest heart gets misunderstood. Another silent trap is the hunger for approval. Wanting to be liked is natural, but building your worth on other people's opinions is a dangerous game. Today they clap for you, tomorrow they forget you. If your value rises and falls with people's moods, you will always live in fear. The strongest confidence is quiet, the kind that doesn't need applause to survive. Then there is the misunderstanding of love. Some women stay in pain because they believe suffering is loyalty. They think if it hurts, it must be real. But real love does not crush your spirit. It does not make you doubt your worth every night. Love is not something that makes you smaller. It is something that gives you space to grow. And perhaps the most painful loss of all is the loss of one's own dreams. Supporting everyone else, putting every other need first, until one day you wake up and realize your own dreams are lying somewhere in the background, gathering dust. A woman without her own purpose may keep others happy, but slowly she forgets her own smile. Here is the truth that changes everything. A woman is never weak by nature. Strength is already written in her existence. The only moment weakness appears is when she starts believing she deserves less than what she truly does. You don't need to become loud to become powerful. You don't need to fight the world to be strong. You only need to remember who you are. The moment a woman decides her worth, the world adjusts its behavior automatically. People don't respect someone who begs for it. They respect someone who quietly knows they deserve it. So stand with dignity, speak with calm confidence, give with wisdom, not with self-neglect, love deeply, but never at the cost of your soul. And remember this always, you were not created to shrink for the comfort of others. You were created to rise, peacefully, gracefully, and powerfully. There is a quiet strength inside every woman, but sadly, many never get to experience it fully. Not because they lack power, but because over time they start doubting it. Life teaches them to adjust, to compromise, to stay silent, to keep everyone happy. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to shrink themselves. The tragedy is not that the world underestimates them. The tragedy is when they start underestimating themselves. It often begins with trying to avoid conflict. Staying quiet feels easier than speaking up. Swallowing tears feels safer than asking for fairness. At first, it looks like maturity, but with time, that silence starts to feel heavy. Inside, questions pile up. Do my feelings matter? Does my voice matter? And when these questions remain unanswered for too long, confidence begins to fade. Many women mistake self-neglect for selflessness. They give their energy without checking their limits. They support everyone else's dreams while putting their own on hold. They stay strong for the world but never rest for themselves. And one day, exhaustion shows up not just in the body but in the heart. You can only pour from your cup for so long before it runs dry. Another quiet mistake is placing self-worth in the hands of others. Waiting for compliments to feel beautiful, waiting for validation to feel enough, waiting for acceptance to feel secure. But when your happiness depends on someone else's approval, you lose control over your peace. The strongest people are not those who are praised, the most they are the ones who remain steady even when no one is clapping. Some women also confuse endurance with love. They tolerate pain in the name of loyalty. They remain where they are not valued because they believe walking away is weakness. But there is nothing noble about staying where your soul is constantly wounded. Love should feel like safety, not survival. It should lift your spirit, not test your limits every day. And then there is the forgotten dream, the one that once made the heart beat faster. Over time, it gets buried under responsibilities, expectations, and fear. One day, she says, but days turn into years. And one morning she wakes up realizing that she has lived for everyone except herself. A life without personal purpose slowly loses its color. Here is the most important truth. Strength does not come from struggling endlessly. Strength comes from awareness. The moment a woman becomes aware of her worth, her life begins to shift. Not loudly, not instantly, but steadily. People start listening differently. Situations begin to change. Boundaries form naturally. Respect grows silently. You don't need permission to value yourself. You don't need approval to stand tall. You don't need to explain your worth to those who never tried to understand your heart. When you stop chasing validation, you start attracting respect. So choose yourself without guilt. Rest without apology. Dream without fear. Speak without trembling. Love without losing yourself. Because the day you fully accept your value, life will no longer test your strength, it will begin to honor it. There is a moment in many lives when a person realizes they have been living on half of their own strength. Not because they were weak, but because they were carrying too many expectations, too many fears, and too much silence inside. Many women grow up learning how to adjust before they learn how to assert. They learn how to serve before they learn how to set boundaries. And in that process, they often forget that their life also deserves space, respect, and meaning. At first, it feels like love to compromise. It feels noble to stay quiet. It feels kind to forgive quickly, again and again. But over time, the heart starts feeling tired. Not tired of loving others, tired of being absent from its own life. When you ignore your own needs long enough, you don't just lose energy, you lose clarity about who you are. Some women keep waiting for the right moment to speak up. They think, after this situation improves, after this problem ends, after everyone is settled, but life does not pause. Moments keep passing, and one day they realize they have been patient for years while their own voice remained unheard. Silence may keep peace around you, but unresolved silence creates storms within you. Then there is the habit of measuring self-worth through relationships. If someone stays, you feel valuable. If someone leaves, you feel broken, but your worth was never created by someone else's presence. It existed before anyone entered your life, and it will remain even if someone chooses to walk away. When you attach your identity to people, you hand them control over your emotions. Freedom begins when your value becomes independent of others' opinions. Many also believe that being strong means never feeling tired, never crying, never asking for help. So they carry everything alone, responsibilities, emotions, disappointments, smiling on the outside and collapsing quietly within. But strength is not about suffering silently. True strength is knowing when to pause, when to rest, and when to say, "This is too heavy for me right now." And somewhere along this journey, personal dreams start getting postponed. Not cancelled, just delayed. Again and again, later, she says, after everyone else is okay. But later is not a guaranteed time. A dream ignored for too long starts shrinking, and when purpose fades, even success feels empty. Here is the quiet truth that changes everything. The moment a woman stops trying to prove her worth and starts living from it, her entire energy shifts. She doesn't need to argue. She doesn't need to chase. She doesn't need to beg for understanding. Her calm becomes her power. Her clarity becomes her protection. You don't become strong by fighting the world. You become strong by standing firm in your values. You don't gain respect by demanding it. You gain it by how you treat yourself when no one is watching. When you stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others, life begins to respond differently. So choose courage over comfort. Choose truth over silence. Choose rest over constant struggle. Choose your dream without guilt. And remember this always. You were never meant to disappear into the background of your own life. You were meant to live it fully, consciously, and with quiet confidence. Life teaches many women to be strong by enduring everything silently. From a young age, they learn how to adjust, how to compromise, how to put others first. At first, it feels like love. It feels like responsibility. It feels like maturity. But slowly, this habit becomes a prison where their own feelings wait quietly in a corner, unseen and unheard. And the saddest part is, no one locked that prison from the outside. It was built gently, step by step, through the fear of disappointing others. Many women measure their goodness by how much they tolerate. They believe patience means staying quiet, even when the heart is hurting. They believe kindness means always saying yes, even when their soul is exhausted. But kindness without self-respect slowly turns into self-neglect. When you teach people that your needs can always wait, they begin to believe that your emotions don't matter. There is also a deep habit of self-doubt that grows quietly. When something goes wrong, they blame themselves first. When something goes right, they credit everyone else. Over time, this weakens the inner voice that once said, "I am enough." And when that voice becomes quiet, the outside world becomes very loud with opinions, judgments, and expectations. Another heavy burden many carry is the fear of being alone. Because of this fear, they stay in places where they are not valued. They stay in conversations that drain them. They stay in relationships where respect is missing, not because they are weak, but because they are afraid of the emptiness they imagine will follow. But the truth is, loneliness in company is far more painful than loneliness in solitude. Somewhere along the way, their dreams start feeling unrealistic. Responsibilities take over, and slowly the heart learns to be practical instead of hopeful. The dream is not destroyed, it is just pushed aside repeatedly, until one day it feels too distant to touch. When a person forgets their dream, they don't just lose a goal, they lose a part of their identity. Here is a quiet truth: strength is not loud, it does not announce itself. It grows the day a woman starts choosing herself without guilt. The day she rests without explaining, the day she says no without fear, the day she stops shrinking to make others comfortable, that is the day real transformation begins. You don't need to change the whole world to feel powerful. You only need to stop fighting yourself. You only need to stop proving your worth to those who never tried to understand your heart. When you treat yourself with dignity, life slowly starts reflecting the same energy back to you. Remember this: you were not born to live in constant survival mode. You were created to feel alive, to grow, to dream, to pause, and to rise again with grace. You were not meant to disappear behind expectations. You were meant to stand in your own light, quietly confident, deeply rooted, and emotionally free. And when you finally stop abandoning yourself for the approval of others, something beautiful happens. You no longer chase peace. Peace starts finding you. There comes a time in life when a person realizes that the greatest battles were never fought outside, but within. Many women spend years trying to be perfect for everyone, strong for the family, patient in relationships, kind even when hurt, and silent even when overwhelmed. On the outside, they look composed. On the inside, they are quietly carrying questions they were never taught to ask out loud. Who am I when no one needs me? What do I want, not what is expected of me? Often, they become so skilled at understanding others that they forget how to understand themselves. They listen deeply, support endlessly, forgive quickly. But when their own heart speaks, they dismiss it. They say, "It's not that important." Over time, the heart stops speaking loudly. It learns to whisper, and when your own voice becomes a whisper, the noise of the world easily overpowers it. Many believe that being strong means never breaking down, so they hide their tiredness behind a smile. They carry their worries alone because asking for help feels like failure. But strength was never meant to be a lonely journey. A tree that never bends in the storm is the one that breaks first. Rest is not weakness. Vulnerability is not defeat. Knowing when you need support is one of the highest forms of wisdom. There is also the quiet habit of comparison. Looking at others and feeling behind, seeing someone else's success and questioning your own progress. Slowly, gratitude turns into pressure and dreams turn into deadlines. But life is not a race. Everyone is walking on a different path, carrying a different load, growing at a different pace. When you measure your journey with someone else's footsteps, you lose sight of your own direction. Some women remain trapped in the idea that they must earn love by enduring pain, that their worth increases with sacrifice, that if they stop giving, they will stop being valued. But love that only grows through suffering is not love. It is fear wearing a gentle mask. Real love does not demand that you disappear to prove your devotion. And then, quietly, a woman may realize she has been living on autopilot, doing what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said, fulfilling every role perfectly, yet feeling strangely disconnected from her own life. This is not because she failed. It is because she forgot to include herself in her own story. Here is the simple truth that changes everything. You do not need to become someone new to live a better life. You only need to return to who you were before the world told you to shrink. The moment you start honoring your feelings instead of dismissing them, something begins to heal. The moment you start choosing peace over people, pleasing, something begins to shift. You don't need to prove that you are worthy of rest. You don't need permission to slow down. You don't need approval to change direction. When you begin to treat your own life with respect, the world slowly learns how to treat you too. So pause sometimes. Listen to your heart without judging it. Let your dreams breathe again. Speak when silence feels heavy. Walk away when staying costs you your self-respect. And remember this quietly powerful truth. You were never meant to lose yourself while trying to hold the world together. You were meant to live with awareness, balance, and gentle strength. Let me end with this truth. You don't need to prove your value to anyone. The sun never asks for permission to shine. The ocean never explains its depth. And you don't need validation, you need realization. The day you stop begging for respect, respect will start chasing you. Stand tall, speak gently, live boldly, and never forget you were never created to be small.